All right, folks, welcome to the Fabricators Coach Podcast. So we've got a peanut gallery here, too. Got some hecklers in the crowd. Good deal. Our topic today is going to be KPIs, Key Process Indicators. That's a fancy term for data. Before we get into that, let me ask a question. Any of you guys into sports? Like sports? So would sports be as interesting if we didn't keep score? Be kind of like, if you're going to an American football game, you weren't keeping score. Be kind of like watching ballet, right? You show up late. Okay, who's ahead? I don't know, but man, the guy in the blue tights, he's got it going on, right? Or maybe if you're an NASCAR fan, you show up and all you got is cars going in circles. You don't know, who's ahead and who isn't and who's been lapped, and all you do is be getting dizzy. Of course, the Formula One guys would tell you that's NASCAR anyway. They don't shoot me. I'm just a piano player, right? All right, so what's this got to do with business? What does keeping score and tracking all the metrics in a football game do for the players of the game? How do the players respond to that? They know that their goal is to beat the other team, but the question is, how do those KPIs, how does that data, how do those stats impact the players? And so, with those, they know not only their current status when they look at the scoreboard, they also know how well they're managing the game. If you're 3 points down in a football game and it's middle of the first quarter, not that big a deal. Your play selection will be, could be a lot of different options. If you're 3 points down and there's a minute left to go in the fourth quarter, your play options get much more limited and it's a lot more urgency. So it has an impact on how everybody involved in the game responds to the game. It impacts how the coaches call the plays, how they manage the game. So having all that data is really important. How many yards to first down? How much time left on the play clock? All these KPIs, all this data, all these numbers drive the focus of the team. They drive the focus of the coaches, and they help drive the tactics for how do we manage this game so we can win the game, right? And in business, we're trying to win the game. We want to make a profit. We want to succeed. We want to improve our operation. So we want to use our KPIs to help us do that. So let's talk about how we can apply that to business. When we start talking about data and key process indicators for business, there's two main categories. There's leading indicators. Those are the things that tell you what may be getting ready to happen, or as we say here in the South, they're fixing to happen, okay? Leading indicators typically are things like new sales leads. An increase in sales leads means probably an increase in quotes. That increase in quotes could give you an increase in orders. So it's a leading indicator for what the business may be getting ready to do. If you've got an outside salesperson calling on contractors, calling on kitchen and bath stores, how many calls they make per day can be a leading indicator. A lot of what I found with a lot of shop owners, they got really good intuition. You ask me, well, how things are going? Well, it seems to be a little quiet. Well, why do you say that? I don't know. The phone just isn't ringing as much, So the question then is, how long has that been going on? Are phone calls or inbound phone calls with questions about how often are you open and that sort of thing? Are you open on Saturday? Those kind of questions. Are those phone calls down 10% or are they down 50%? Makes a big difference. So having the data is really key. So those are leading indicators. Lagging indicators we're all really familiar with. The biggest one is net profit. How did we do last month? Did we make money last month? If so, how much? How many square feet did we produce last month? What were our total sales for last month? Typical lagging indicators, and they'll tell you what actually happened. So leading indicators tell you what may happen, and then lagging indicators tell you what actually happened. And to run the game of business, you need both. Think about that football game again. Our leading indicators may be the plays that we're going to call, but the scoreboard is a lagging indicator, tells us how well we did. We know we've got 7 yards to first down. We run a play, we scored another 4 yards. Now we've got that lagging indicator tell us how well we performed. We've got some metrics out there that can be both a leading indicator and a lagging indicator, depending on how we use them. One of my favorites is called throughput dollars. And if you're not familiar with that, there's some things on the website, fabricatorscoach.com, that explains how to figure that. But what throughput dollars are really great is, as a leading indicator, they can tell us how much profit we have planned to make next Thursday. Great leading indicator. This is what could happen. As a lagging indicator, it can tell us how much profit did we make yesterday. We had 6 jobs we planned to install, but we broke the piece with the sink cut out on one of the jobs. We didn't get it completed. So we may have planned on a certain amount of throughput dollars yesterday, but we didn't get that much because we had a job we got a remake on, okay? Lagging indicator. So having that data is really key. A lot of shop owners will say, well, why do I need all these numbers? I'm just trying to make a profit. That's what I'm really after. I really want, at the end of the day, I just want a good profit. And again, shop owners have got great intuition, but if we've got this data, we can start to quantify that intuition. And I've found that whenever we can do a good job of quantifying the intuition of a shop owner, to say, hey, yeah, things sound a little quiet, the phone's not ringing as much. If we can understand that it's just 10%, it's only been going on for a week, maybe it's not that big a deal. Or if we can quantify it and say, no, actually it's about 40%. It's been happening for the last 2 months. We got a problem. Now we can start putting our efforts, because we don't have infinite resources. We got to deploy our finite resources very effectively. With this data, we can do that effectively, because if it's only been 10% less phone rings, incoming phone calls for last week, I'm not going to worry too much about it. I'm going to watch it and see. But if it's like, 30, 40%, it's been going on for a couple of months, I need to take some resources, apply it to that problem, figure out what's going on, and fix it, right? So the intuition's good. Quantifying it helps us take action and put together really good plans. And that's really the challenge is, how do we use this for best impact? Where we have to start off with is goals. How many, when we get down to a finite, we have goals for profit, of course. Should have goals for your business for where you want to be for total sales for this year, for profit this year. You should be looking at next year. We're in the end of April now. You should have a game plan for the rest of this year and already be looking at next year for what your progressions are. Part of your goals should be your exit strategy. If you're an owner, what are you going to do when you're not doing this business anymore? Okay, those are key, and there's a lot of shop owners that don't have that. So having that's really key. And then how do we make that happen? Well, that's where we have those finite goals for the saw operator. How many slabs or how many jobs do I need to cut today? Well, here's a list, and you got 6 orders you got to cut today. We're already at lunchtime. I've only cut 2 orders. I need to pick it up a little bit because I got to get the last 4 done before I go home today. All right. Percent on time delivery, our schedule performance. We make promise dates to customers to come out and do installs on certain dates. How often do we hit that? Need to track that, because that's a real big key for customer satisfaction. If we keep missing it, we need to understand, are we missing it because the customer is changing something? Contractor can't get the painters, wallpaper people, the tile guys to come in like they're supposed to, like they planned on, or is it something we're doing internally we can't execute well? So again, setting those goals, tracking that data, knowing day to day what's going on, knowing during the day, what's going on, which jobs need to be completed today for tomorrow's installs. Or if you're really good, you've got a little bit of a buffer there that says, okay, my rule is all of tomorrow's installs have to be completed and on aim frames sitting right here in this spot in my plant by 8 o'clock today, which gives you a little bit of a buffer in case we miss something. Also gives you time to inspect everything, to sign off, to make sure you got your sinks, got your faucets, get all your pieces, got all your splashes, and now you're really ahead of the game. Helps ensure that performance. So having that data is critical, so you're measuring the right things. Now, some guidelines when you use this data that are really important. One is real-time feedback. Stop thinking about that football game again. How good would it be if, at the end of the quarter, all the information you had was a score. You didn't have a scoreboard. You're the coach or you're the quarterback, you're on the team. All you know is you're ahead by 3 points. But you don't know how many plays you ran, how many pass plays, how many running plays, how many yards total. You don't have any of those stats. All you get is an update at the end of the quarter. Kind of like getting a profit and loss statement at the end of the month, but nothing during the month, right? So real-time feedback. One of the things I like about throughput dollars is you can set that system up so we can determine, did we win the day yesterday or not? Good real-time feedback for what's happening. That Sawyer, I gotta cut 10 slabs today, or I got 6 jobs I gotta cut. That's real-time feedback. We know what we gotta do, okay? So it gives us, when you have that real-time feedback, everybody gets involved in the game, because we all know our roles in the shop. If we know how well we're performing against what we got to get done today, what are we on track for to make this month look really good, this week or this month or this year look really good. We know our roles. Now we can be more involved in the process of achieving those goals. Without that feedback, we don't know. So we want real-time feedback. Waiting to the end of the month to tell you is too late. I want to know as close to now as I can, so I can remember what happened, make adjustments, and do better. So real-time data. The other guideline is this information needs to be visible for everybody. What if you had all the stats on the scoreboard, but there was no scoreboard for the football game? Only the coaches could see it maybe on their phone, but the players couldn't see it. How involved would the players be if they didn't have that visibility of what's going on now? So real-time data, make it visible for everybody. And then something we don't do in sports a whole lot other than from game to game, we want to trend that data. As we start looking at our percent on-time performance for our install schedule, are we getting better at that, or are we getting worse at that? That phone ringing intuition thing we talked about earlier, is that getting better? Is it getting worse? We know where we are. We're going to make some changes to improve it. Are they having an effect or not? So trending that data is really important. People can remember a lot of stuff and say, well, I think we're getting better. Yeah, but how much better? And are we really getting better? It feels good, but does the data back that up? So the data is really, really critical. And I can give you a real good example of how this works. I had a client who was doing the things we're talking about. They had targets for throughput dollars for each month. They were doing the visible scoring and managing day to day. And Christmas rolled around, and they were closed between Christmas and New Year's. So they had to hit their monthly target by Christmas Eve. And the management team was looking at things and said, we're not going to hit our target. And it was like 2 days before Christmas. And nobody was scheduled to work the next week. But they had 3 or 4 jobs that needed to get done to hit their goal. And there was no bonus involved at this point. This was kind of early in the process for them doing things this way. So the management team, without the owner's involvement, got together and said, hey, guys, how can we hit this goal? And they volunteered, and they got some other people in the shop to volunteer to come in, put together a game plan for the next week to come in for a couple of days, install those few jobs just so they could hit their goal. There was no bonus involved. There was no money involved. It was just pride. We're used to hitting our goals. We need to hit our goal. And so it's like that football team that wants to beat the other team. You've got to win the line of scrimmage, and you got to make those first downs. You got to score those points, and knowing where you are and having buy-in towards that is really key. But without the data, without these key process indicators, it's really tough to get folks very involved. So, if you want to get your team to focus on the performance of the business, then post the scores. Let everybody know what's going on. Help them understand the current status of the business, and then make sure they know their role in improving that performance and improving that status. Does that make sense? So I think, when you start looking at how you can do that, there's a couple of good articles I've got on the Fabricators Coach website. There's one called Stop Counting the Square Feet You Produce. Another one called How Much Time Is Left on Your Company's Game Clock. They talk more about this. So hit fabricatorscoach.com, and you can hit those articles and podcasts that go along with those to get you more idea, more information. I think it's important for folks to understand that your business is running exactly the way you designed it to run. If you're not happy with it, you got to go look in the mirror. Figure out how to use what we're talking about to improve your business. But if you got some questions about how to do that, you want some ideas about how to do that, hit the website. There's a button you can click for a call. We can schedule a quick 30-minute call, talk, and see if there's some suggestions I can make. Happy to do those, okay? Any questions about that? I know I've gone through a lot of stuff real quickly. This is supposed to be like an hour podcast, but I wasn't going to bore everybody for an hour. Any questions? You guys, any thoughts, comments? Yes. Hit fabricatorscoach.com. No, just hit the website, fabricatorscoach.com. Sorry.
Thank you.
All right.
Do you have somebody that collects your data? Is that something that you do?
That's something that the owner needs to do. The people that run the business need to do. What I can do is help you define what that data should be, help you figure out how to collect it, help you figure out how to report it, display it, and then coach you through how to use that data. But I'm not going to come in and collect it for you. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to have your business relying on me for the next 10 years. That's not a good scenario for you. What I like to do is teach folks how to do things like this so they can do it themselves. In essence, I like to work myself out of a job from that standpoint. So you're asking for a way to keep track of your inventory?
That's simple, yeah.
Okay. Are you using any kind of a shop management software like Moreware, EasedEdge, anything like that right now?
Moreware, EasedEdge.
You're not using anything like that? Okay. Then the simplest thing is going to be a spreadsheet, but spreadsheets can be a challenge because you've probably tried to use spreadsheets for that. It's real easy to mistype something. If somebody's not really paying attention, it's easy to type data in the wrong cell and then mess up your whole spreadsheet. It can be a big challenge on a spreadsheet, but that's Moreware is probably one that's been out the longest. EasedEdge. There's Stone Profits. Another one is Slabsmith has got the ability to track inventory, but they will interface with things like Moreware and some of these other programs as well. Yeah, but Slabsmith can do that too.
That would probably be like my challenge right now, is keeping track of the slabs coming in, or to say when they buy bundles, and just see, oh, that bundle's gone. Where did it go?
Oh yeah. What's your annual sales look like? Are you above $1 million a year?
Yeah, above $1 million.
About $2 million a year. You're at the level you need a business management software package. There's a few down here on the floor on the far end of Hall C where the machines are. There's a few machines over there. There's 2 or 3 shops there. They're not all here this time. A better place to look is going to be at Tice in Vegas in January. You'll probably find all of them there. But it's really good to go talk to these folks and look at what they have to offer. Before you make a decision on software to run your shop, you need to sit down and list all the things that you want to make sure it does for you. And that's an important exercise because there is no perfect software. Now, I'm not going to tell you that one's any better than the other. Some softwares fit certain business situations better than others. They all have their strengths and weaknesses. And because their software programs are compromises. So you got to figure out, okay, what compromises am I willing to accept and what things I absolutely have to have. So put that list together first. And because you haven't looked at it, maybe start talking to software vendors now. Just don't decide on one until you've talked to several and then thought through what works best for you.
Where can I find a list of those software vendors?
Pull up the, pardon?
Or
Options for software vendors. A good place to go would be go pull up the exhibitors for Tice for this year in January and pull up the software category, and there's probably a list of all of them right there.
TISE?
Yes, TIS is the International Surface Expo, or some people just call it Surfaces. But if you look up Tice 2024 and then look up the exhibitors for that, probably will give you a pretty comprehensive list. But yeah, if you're over $1 million a year, pushing $2 million, you're at the point you need some software to help you keep track of all that. That'll start to answer a lot of the questions that you've got about inventory and what slabs were used on what job. Slabsmith's got a really good labeling system. You can put serial numbers on your slabs. You can allocate those slabs to jobs. You can really start doing a good job of tracking that stuff. It's important to understand how you want to do that in your business. What I like to do is challenge folks to put together a list of the questions that you want to answer every day, every week, every month. And when you've got that list of questions, then you say, okay, how can your software help me answer this question? And that's a really good test to go evaluate systems and see what may work good for you.
Start tracking data and using it.
Yeah, track data and use it. Yeah, get everybody on the same page. All right, any other questions, thoughts, comments?
We have a remnant issue at our shop.
Oh, really? You got a challenge with remnants and you're in the countertop business? I'm shocked.
We're creating more than we're using, and we've been in business for 15 years now, so we have an inventory of over 5,000 remnants, and it's time consuming.
Yep.
It takes up a lot of space.
5,000 remnants will take up a little bit of time. Yep.
For sure. And because they've been written off as an asset, we can't just throw them out. So have you have any experience in solutions to remnants, or
The simplest answer, and this may sound like an oversimplification, but it's make a decision that you're going to sell those things and then figure out how to sell them. And there's lots of ways to do that. If they've been written off and they have zero value, you can use remnants to help, close a larger sale because you give them a quote free vanity, that kind of thing. But if you got, you said that you are generating more remnants than you're selling, that's a very common situation in most shops. What you've got is a lot of profit sitting there. And because it's not fine wine or cheese or good bourbon, it's not getting better with age. It's going to get chipped, it's going to get scratched, it's going to get broken. And the more you handle it, the more that happens, as we all know. So you've got to sit down and put together a program for how you're going to get rid of that. And there are a lot of variables to that. It's tough to give you a straight answer because let's say you do a lot of quartz work with production builders. Well, that's a little bit easier problem to solve. That's just keeping track of the remnants and making sure that you're pulling those things and make sure the die lots match so that you can use those as additional pieces in jobs that you're running. But if you're doing a bunch of granites and you've got a lot of custom stuff out there and a lot of custom remnants, a little bit more of a challenge. But if you're in that kind of a higher end market with granites, it's also not too hard for, say, a quartz job to show somebody a nice remnant that's not very expensive and say, okay, look, you're trying to decide if you want to close the deal on this quartz job, as talking to either a contractor or a homeowner. Tell you what I can do. I can take this remnant, I can throw that in, and I can make that vanity for you in your hall bath. And all I'll do is charge you for a fab and install in the sink. I'll give you the material for free. It's just put together those programs. You got to do it in a way that fits your market and doesn't undercut your mainstay for your main work. But if you want to talk in more detail, I'll be glad to kind of talk with you a little bit, understand your business, and see if we can get a little more detail that fits you. But in a broad brush, that's kind of the approach. In a lot of these cases, it's just sit down, make a decision, and execute. Get your team together, talk about possibilities, see what works, put together a plan, work the plan. If the plan isn't working, change the plan. And it's a bit of an oversimplification, but that's what it boils down to a lot of times.
What about subcontracting versus salary?
Subcontracting versus, you talk about for installers?
C has a lot.
Yes.
So we're going to start in
Oh,
Pros
that's
and cons on both, I would assume.
pros and cons, definitely. Having run a fab shop myself, having owned my own brick and mortar business, when I look at the nature of what we do, think about who spends the most time with your customers. Who spends the most face time with that homeowner? Templer does a little bit, salesperson does a little bit, shop does none. Pardon? The installers, and they're the last people that the customer ever sees from your company. And if I own a fab shop, I'm going to lean toward having those as my employees because I want them to look the way I want them to look. I want them to wear the clothes I want them to wear. I want their trucks and their tools and how they handle customers to be the way I want it done. And so as W-2 employees, on my payroll, I can control that better. Now, also managing people in the field is a big challenge. And a lot of shops struggle to manage the people they got in the shop, much less somebody in the field. So it's a big challenge for a lot of folks, especially smaller shops at times. And I'm also very well aware of the fact that with good subs, and there are good subs and there are not so good subs, with good subs, you can get more installs done in a day and you can get a little bit higher productivity because they are self-employed. And I've heard numbers as high as 20-25% more productivity. I think you've got to look at how well you can manage that. Are they doing the things that you need done with are they treating your customers the way you want them treated? The shop that I ran, we had subs as installers. And after about 6 months there, we made a conscious decision to switch over and make them employees. And we didn't hire all of them because I actually had installers that had gotten into fights with customers and had cursed customers. And that's not acceptable by anybody, okay? So it kind of depends on your situation, okay? Depends a lot on your philosophy of business. What are your values for your business? What do you want your customers to know about your business? How you want them to feel about that? If you can accomplish that with subs, it's a good solution. Okay? Anything else? Well, again, if you got any questions, if you're not happy with how your business is running, you want to make some changes, hit fabricatorscoach.com. You can hit a button and schedule a quick 30-minute phone call. That's free. Be glad to talk with you again with questions like this and see if I can make some suggestions that may help you out. But until next time, happy fabricating.